Hello, my friend, and welcome to the 462nd episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today we have Mr. Tom Williams, and he ended this interview with a great line. No buyer ever argued with clear expectations. How clear are your expectations with your prospects? How clear are your expectations and how clear are theirs as to what the next step is after you meet? I've given away a free tool for many years. I even bought a domain for it, thesalesagenda.com. It's a free tool. I've used it since at least 2006 in countless meetings, who knows, dozens of different industries, meeting with large teams, meeting one-on-one. It works. And what I'm doing is setting clear expectations for what's going to happen at the meeting. It removes the expectations that I'm going to be a dancing chicken, showing up just for their entertainment or their free education. Okay, that's not how it's going to be, folks. So avail yourself of that free tool. And in my training, I've always talked about why we need to raise our level of expectations of everyone around us, including ourselves, our staff, our vendors, even our customers, even your prospects. Make sure they show up. Make sure you're not wasting your time. Okay, so you need to get really granular and committed to doing things the right way, doing them efficiently, doing them well. Okay, so you've got to make it easy. The title of today's episode on the blog is Make It Easy for Your Customers to Buy. It's the title of the podcast. So make it easy for them to buy, make it easy for you to sell. Okay, that's where the expectations come in. So go get that free tool, thesalesagenda.com. If you want to dive into it and get it customized and go try it and get feedback, come join me in the Make Every Sale program. Right now, you can get the digital course at a very low price. I've just put it up on Gumroad. I've been testing that out. I was working with someone that a couple of people that have used it, and they've expanded their feature set. So I'm trying that out, and I really like it. I'm showing that to my private group right now, how to upload their own content, how to title it, how to promote it. But makeeverysale.com, you get all of the digital assets for one low price. And then if you want to have a one-on-one call with me, you can sign up there as well. And then if you want to plug into the ongoing group, once you get the digital assets, I can send you information on how to join us every single week to go over all of this and more. It's a live Zoom call. I've done it for many years. Before Zoom was cool, before COVID. It's video, it's recorded. It's partly scripted, partly unscripted. I take your questions every week. If you can't make it, and you email me your questions ahead of time, I'll address those on the call. So come get yourself some help, okay? But like I said, the digital assets are all there on demand now. MakeEverySale.com, one very low price. Now let's bring on Tom. Tom Williams, CEO of Deal Point, expert salesman, entrepreneur, man of the world. Welcome to the Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
Thanks, man. I'm keeping it real. How about yourself?
I'm good. I may have you hit the keyboard, bust out some music back there, but we'll see how this goes.
I'll do the whole thing in rhyme. I'll sing the whole interview if you like.
Nice. So we've been chatting a little bit. You have an interesting history, CEO and founder of software. Is it consulting? A little bit of both?
Yeah, it's always been around sales and marketing. So it is when you're not working, you're consulting. So there were definitely some consulting windows in there over the years. But most of the time, I'm doing marketing and sales together for a software company.
Yeah. You started a CRM not too long ago. So, I have not started a CRM, but I sell a lot of CRM software. So got quite a few things in common. But, you mentioned...
Well, certainly, Wes, I'll say my advice to all your listeners, don't start a CRM company. It's unbelievably complicated that you need 100% of everything. And the ocean never ceases needing to be boiled in the CRM world. So
I know.
Don't your own company.
I look at that, and because I've been in that space for a long time, and it is tough. It's like, what's the MVP, right? What's the minimum viable product? And before you know it, you got to add 497 features, and all of a sudden the thing's not easy anymore. It's not affordable anymore. It's hard to support. It's like, oh, good grief.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
I'll just resell them.
Yeah, that's the right thing to do. The hard part is finding out what features do you not need, because every single customer needs exactly 80% of what you got plus 20% something unique.
Yeah,
and that's why something like Salesforce ends up being so complicated, because the vast majority of it people don't need, but everyone gravitates towards it for safety's sake, even though it's easily the least usable of the CRMs. It's a nightmare.
Oh, amen. I just did a blog post today about it. I hang out at Quora sometimes, right? I'll answer some questions, kind of get the pulse of what's going on, what are people curious about, and somebody had asked me to answer the question, is HubSpot a viable threat to Salesforce? I'm like, yeah, Salesforce's market cap is 17 times bigger than HubSpot's, but it doesn't mean they're not a threat. And when you look at everything like Salesforce does, it's so big, so onerous. I'm like, oh, good grief.
But you know what it doesn't do, Wes? You can't select 3 opportunities and delete them at the same time. With Salesforce, you got to do each one independently. They don't have a multi-select. It just kills me. And they're like, yeah, you can buy an app for that to select more than one opportunity at a time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but it's all about being user-friendly versus having market dominance.
But couldn't you say that most things that people sell, it's the 80-20 rule? It's like, focus on what they really need. Maybe guide the conversation, because a lot of times the customer doesn't really know what they need. They're chasing all the bright shiny things. Like, no, focus right here. This 80% is going to move the needle for you. Let's get a solid foundation, then we'll work on the 20%. Isn't that true of everything?
A lot of it is they don't even know what their own problem is. I think the best salespeople are able to walk in and say, I've seen your situation in 10 other companies. So here's the thing that you may not realize. Your completely different area of the business is what's causing this problem. So don't focus on what features does my CRM have, for example. Focus on the fact that your sales guys aren't able to follow process, and it's not the CRM's fault. So let's not focus on the CRM or whatever the technology is. Let's focus on those root causes, because that's how you're able to be a way more helpful partner to them, is by kind of pulling the wool out of their eyes and saying, look, this is a lot of other people that experience this problem. I helped X, Y, and Z with that problem before. Here's what we did. It's way more valuable than getting stuck into, does it have the top 20% of features? Because they may not need those at all. They may just be parroting what they heard from the last sales guy who was on the phone with them. So if you can dig into what's your actual problem and fix that, then figure out what kind of software or solution do you need to make that fix easier. And I think they will appreciate that way more.
Yeah, but Tom, my business is different.
Yours is unique, huh, Wes?
My business is, I know you helped 2,492 businesses exactly in my space, but my business is different. Can you look, you answer my questions. Okay. I know what I need.
Well, let me guess. Is this one of your problems? That's what I like to do. I like to take a stab in the dark, where if there's a reasonably good chance that I recognize some patterns. One buddy of mine actually has a photograph of a whiteboard that he carts around, and he says, "Let me guess. I bet your network looks like this." And they're like, "All right, I guess you have seen our problems before," and that really opens them up. And they're like, "Yeah, it does look something. Let me show you what it really looks like." And then you're talking. You do need to walk in with something, otherwise they're not going to believe that you can help them. And if they really are looking just for a price and a quote, then I guess you can just give it to them, but you're probably going to be in just a price war at that point. If they know what they want already, or if they say they know what they want and they're not willing to listen, then you're not really going to be able to add much value. And yeah, I'd quote them and move on. But you're going to get stuck into a price war real quick with whoever offers 50 cents less of solution.
Yeah, that's a good point. I talk with clients all the time about, re-engineering, right? Redesigning what it is they think they need. It's because I always equate it to like being a doctor, right? I don't call you up, hey, Dr. Tom, yeah, I think I got COVID. I need some hydroxychloroquine and azithromycin and some zinc and some steroid inhalers and magnesium. Can you send all that to me real quick? Like,
yeah, how much is that? How much does that cost?
Yeah, how much would you charge to ship that over? Go ahead and just deliver it to me today. But that's how, as salespeople, we let the prospect treat us, right? Yeah, Tom, I need this CRM. I needed the ERP, the API, the HTTPS, the SSL, the blah, blah, blah. I needed to delete 3 opportunities at once, and I needed to be $18 a seat. No contract. Oh, yes. Yeah. Great. Hey, boss, I got a good one. Why do we take the abuse?
Well, I think one of the reasons I think there's 2 reasons people walk in like that. One is no one likes to ask for help. Like, no one wants to go ask for directions and say, actually, I don't know about my own business. Wes, you're an expert. Can you please tell me about my own business? Because it's humiliating. So if you can walk in acknowledging that they too are experts, but maybe you've seen something they haven't seen, but be real polite and real respectful about it. Not, I know more than you do about your business. That rarely goes well. And then 2, they're covering their own butts on like the risks that are involved. So have you heard that phrase, no one got fired for buying IBM back in the olden days? So they may be saying we need every last goddamn bell and whistle because they're afraid to get the wrong thing. And so if you can help them understand what the actual risks are to making whatever change it is, I think you'll be able to get into that nut of concern way faster. And ask them what risks are you worried about, and let's talk about those risks rather than what the software feature has or doesn't have.
Right. Is it that simple? I mean, will they just answer? Tell me what risk you're worried about. I mean, no. Listen, young man. I'm a big CEO, and
that's why you need to lead with examples, because it warms them up and it shows that maybe you've got something that they haven't got. So personally, I don't do the what we saw last time when we were talking with XYZ is this. I just barrel in with, and I'll say, I've read everything I can about your company, and I'm guessing that this might be a problem. Is that a problem? And either I hit it on the head, or it's so reasonable that that I'm in the ballpark. Then they'll open up. You can't just say, "What's your problem? What are you going to get fired about?" No, nobody will respond to that. But if you walk in with a well-educated guess, then either you nail it or it's close enough so that they'll start talking. Now, where you get those educated guesses, that is the true hard part of sales. I used to say, go talk to somebody who's senior in your organization and ask them if you could buy them lunch. And then they will tell you what those commercial insights are about the industry you serve. The benefit being, of course, they would also 99% of the time buy you lunch. Nowadays, we're not doing a whole bunch of lunch eating with colleagues, but you can still, if you talk to your CEO, I think they would love it if a sales rep came and said, can you tell me some of the insights that you've seen over the years of the problems that companies have seen fixed with our software or our solution? I think you'll score some points with that senior sales management or CEO, depending how big your company is. And you'll get some insights that maybe you can lead with rather than just barreling into the software demo in the first call. But you need to have those insights. Otherwise, the prospect's not going to listen to you.
Right. Yeah. I'll work on that with my clients, and it's so fundamental. It's the 80-20 rule, right? I have them work on the frustrated, upset, concerned, angry. And they're like, what? The old Robert Collier, enter the conversation going on in the mind of the prospect. because everybody it's the 80-20, right? Like sales managers, like if I'm selling sales training, right? I know sales managers are frustrated with salespeople not making enough calls. They're upset that salespeople's pipelines are all over the place. They sandbag or they are overly optimistic. They're concerned about, growing a good, strong, stable team. And some of them are just downright angry that, despite all their training and investments, they still have this yo-yo pipeline. So whatever. So boom, boom, boom. I'm like, I don't suppose any of those are impacting your business right now, are they? I've had guys go, dude, were you listening in on our sales meeting this morning? Right? Because everybody has the same usually.
Well, the best thing is if you've got an idea on what causes sandbagging, then go in with one or two. Rather than having, is there any of these 50 things, go into one or two things, but then have like what you found out why people sandbag. And maybe they sandbag because their comp plan is because you can get punitive comp plans, right? If you close too many deals in this month and leaves you hurting for next month. If you have a month-to-month comp plan, you'll see more sandbagging than if you have a quarter-to-quarter comp plan. So ask them, like, if you're sandbagging, do you guys have a month-to-month comp plan? And yeah, we do. And then we have accelerators that reset at the end of every month. Well, that is probably impacting your sandbag quotient. Let me give you some advice on how you can smooth that over, or what behavior do you actually want? And now you're talking. But it's about having that initial insight about their company. And it's easier if you're selling to salespeople because we're all salespeople.
Yeah.
But if you're selling to a different kind of industry, that's why you got to bring in your head engineer or your product market person and quiz them as to what those insights are.
Well, what if somebody says, "Well, but Tom, I can't. That's free consulting. I can't give away all that advice. They need to pay me for that. That's product. That's work product, right? That's experience. And I can't just give them all this advice."
If you're a consultant, then yeah, you can hint at a little bit, but by all means, don't give away the store. I think the successful key is show them how to do it manually, if you like, but then ideally your solution makes it a lot easier to do automatically. And to the extent that they believe, all right, if I pull all these widgets and levers and everything, I can get to that end result. I can fix my own problem. But now I understand why your solution is so much cooler because it does it automatically. There should, and if there's some secret that fixes everything that you're afraid to tell them, they're probably going to figure it out by themselves. And your software is probably not that valuable. If it's just like an on button for some other service, if your software doesn't actually have anything of value that isn't greater than a 10-minute conversation, then it's probably not very good software. So I'm not afraid to tell the secrets of what makes deal, like the underlying truths that we're leveraging to make Deal Point be cool. I'll tell anybody about those underlying truths and I'll show them how to do it manually. And then inevitably they're like, yeah, but how do I automate that? I thought, well, then you come back to me. But
Right.
by showing them those truths, you're a lot more likely to be that credible person who they'll come back to later on when they need to automate it, make it more powerful, or make it easier to actually do.
So you have an unfair advantage. You've got this British accent selling in America. Should I move to the UK? Would that help me? Do they like Americans?
Well, when I'm in England, I go back to my regular accent. And I explain to people, well, y'all need to understand that there's certain things that move your action plan. And yeah, it goes great.
I see what you did there. All right.
Yeah,
Just don't start playing the banjo when you go down south. All right, we get kind of scared.
Out. Yeah. I mean, it's having something. So that's like if you've got the different levels of different maturity levels of customer engagement, certainly personal rapport goes a real long way. And I definitely have an advantage in that because it's interesting. It stands out from the other 10 calls they've had. But it only goes so far. And I can be charming all day long. If I'm not telling them something that's helpful to their business, then in fact it's worse. They're happy to listen to me for half an hour, but then I just waste half an hour of my time. So
Right.
if I'm not pretty goddamn sure I've got something of interest to that particular person, then no one's a winner just by having a friendly conversation.
Yeah. And you know what? I tell women in my training that exact thing. It's like, look, leverage what you got. Okay. If you're an attractive woman, they're probably going to let you at least in the door. But that's it. Okay.
Yeah, I have
You
no comment
deliver.
on that.
You know, you got to deliver, right? She a good looking woman. Hey, she's nice. Yeah, she can come out. Oh, you want to buy lunch? A good looking woman wants to buy me lunch all day long. Great. You're an idiot? Fine. I'm gonna poke at you. I'm gonna burst your bubble. I'm gonna enjoy the lunch. You know, but I'm like, leverage whatever benefit you have. And people all the time, women will tell me, that doesn't seem fair. I want to be, judged on my brains, or whatever. I'm like, you're going to be judged on your brains because you got to bring value. They're not going to buy from you just because they think you're attractive. They just get your foot in the door. So do it, but are people crazy? Or am I crazy? Am I crazy to give them that advice? Maybe I am.
I have no comment, Wes. That's no comment.
That's fine. But man, it's just like your accent, right? Leverage it. But man, you're going to be politically correct. Fine. So we talked about, like you said before we even hit record, make it easy for your buyers to buy. What do you mean by that? I'll take your money all day long. I would say I'd take Bitcoin. I might take Bitcoin. I'll take whatever you got. But what do you mean make it easy?
So there's two kind of big thoughts there. There's an awful lot of people who focus on sales process and they forget to check in with the customer. Like, well, what do you need to buy? So I've got all these check marks that I need to do in my sales stages. I got to qualify them. I got to check for budget. I got to check for authority, all that stuff. But the buyer is going to have steps on their side as well. They're going to need to go get some consensus from inside their buying organization. They're going to need to bring the lawyers in at a certain amount of time. They're probably going to need to get some technical experts like a network IT person involved. They don't know that because they've never bought your thing. So you want to make it as easy as possible for them to look good inside their own organization. You don't want to make them do a whole bunch of work. So the easier you can make it on your champions, whatever the work is on your champions plate, the more you can do of that work and make it easier for them to buy, the more likely you are to stand out versus the other competitors who are just barreling tasks one after another on that champion. And it's not easy being a champion. You got to go in and you got to put your neck on the line and say, I think we should bring in Wes to fix our problem. And if it doesn't go well, it'll be my fault. I'll totally take the blame and you can go ahead and fire me. That's a nerve-wracking thing for any champion to have to face. So to the extent that you can provide them cover and give them the case studies that they're going to need to make the case and show that it's the smart, safe decision for them to go with you, you're making it easier for them to represent you inside the organization, and you're making it easier for them to ultimately endorse you and buy from you. So, I mean, it's real easy just to stay focused over here on the seller's needs, but they've never bought your thing before and they don't really know what to do. So the more you can help them, the easier it's going to be for everyone.
Yeah. How do you know who the real decision maker is without offending maybe that internal champ or, stepping on toes?
There's a lady here in Portland, Monica Enand, and she runs she's the CEO, but she used to run sales. What she said was, if the champion says that they're the decision maker, ask them when was the last time that they signed a PO of this size, because it's probably not true. The chances are that the decision maker is going to be the person who says, no, I listened to the recommendation of my team. That's the decision maker. If there is, a single person. And I don't think it's inappropriate at all to say, when we've sold this solution in a similar company, there were 4 people at the table. There was an IT person, there was somebody from finance, there was an end user, and typically we had a systems integrator involved to help them. Who are those people in your world? And if they say, no, it's just me, you can think to yourself, well, that's an anomaly, and that makes it a lot different than the other 15 times I sold this. So I would flag that deal if they're distinctly different from all the other times you sold the solution into a similar company. And I don't think that if you position it right to say, these are the people who are needed to make, not to buy my software, but to fix the problem. There's 4 people involved in fixing this kind of problem. They look like this. Who would that be on your side? Then you're bringing those people into the discussion, and then the sale follows naturally from that. Sure, if you say who's the signature over at your place, that is going to rankle somebody the wrong way. But it's kind of along the lines of helping them buy. If you focus on fixing their problem all the time, then you can ask all these questions, because I'm not asking you for my benefit, I'm asking for your benefit. If somebody just buys my software, but they haven't really analyzed what the problem is, it's going to be a waste of money, because it's going to sit around underutilized if we haven't really analyzed the problems that my solution fixes. So that's how you get around it, by asking who's involved in fixing the problem. Let's get those guys in a room together, and then you've got access to the true decision-making team. Because ultimately, the person who signs the contract may well not be the actual decision maker. They may just be like, well, taking a recommendation from the rest of the team.
Right. Yeah, I like that. That's a good question. Just trying to think, like, how would they reply? If I'm thinking, like, if somebody asked me that, I'd be like, I don't know. It might depend on my mood, right? If it's a Monday or a Friday. Like, what do you mean? When's the last time I sign that PO? All the time, or what kind of question is that?
And that's why really you probably asked the question too soon, because if you don't have that team together and have a pretty good sense that who you think it might be, then you really are risking by asking that question. So you want to have a good sense for who's involved in the decision. And Monica is pretty brave by having those. So when did you last do it? But the fact is, if they're fibbing to you, then you call them out on it.
Oh yeah, you gotta find out.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to be wasting your time. And a lot of it depends on, have you already shown that you know what you're talking about? Because by showing them you know what you're talking about and that you actually can fix their problem, you've kind of earned the right to get some detailed information back, because now you really are giving them some value without asking for a check back.
Yeah. Would you say, the more complex the sale, I don't know if like cautious is the right word, but if you're dealing with a big sale, many people at the table, it's going to take 30 days, 60 days to close this deal. How do you have to stick more to that defined process, get those check boxes ticked, from your end, or can you still have some leeway in there? And
well, I think one of the biggest benefits of having a plan, so if you have a plan that you share with your prospect, say, this is a typical, we've heard your problem, I think we can fix it. This is the typical kind of plan of what it would look like to get you to your happy place. And it's a 3-month process, blah, blah, blah. This is what it looks like. Then one of the things you're doing immediately is reducing the risk that they're worried about. Because especially right now, your prospects, their heads down, all they want to do is get it to the weekend and be able to relax a little bit in their basements, and they don't want to raise their hands right now. Nobody's saying, hey, I want to spend some more budget. But at the same time, they have some projects that they need to finish right now. That's why they didn't get let go in March, because they're responsible for something. So if anything, they have an even more important project or responsibility right now, and there's less room for mistakes because everything's tighter. So you can use that as a salesperson. You can say, I understand that you have this project that you need to get completed in the next few months, but actually the risky move is not making a change. The risky move is staying here and not looking at the alternatives, because if you walk with me and make this change, then you'll have a much higher likelihood of success in your main project. That will if you can shift where that risk is coming into their lives from, the risk normally is making a change. If you can make it to the risk is not making a change, then you're much more likely to be successful in selling them some product.
How do you get your foot in the door, though, to position yourself as the expert, right? If you're cold calling, banging on doors, I know you can turn things around and get it going, but like, is there a way to expedite the process?
Well, that's where you got a 6 or an 8 part email cadence and a bunch of cold calls. That's where you're barreling in with, I think I know something. I think I know something about your organization or about how you guys do business, and I think you're making a mistake. So you can be brave. So the challenge people with it, and you say, start by challenging them on their current mode of business. Because what you need to do is first you need to break down their existing understanding of how they do business and show them where there's a fundamental mistake and that's costing them money, and then bring them about to what the solution is. But first of all, you need to show them that they're doing something horribly wrong, and it's a miracle that they haven't gone out of business yet. And you got to be kind of confident about it. You got to walk in and say, "This is what we do." So we sell mutual action plan software, and a big component of that is having a more accurate forecast. So I walk in and I say, when was the last time that you had a sales rep say guaranteed close by the end of the month? And they laugh because every rep ever has said guaranteed close by the end of the month. And then I say, well, what happens when that deal slips into the next quarter? And well, sure, I just did it the other day. They had $2 million worth of deals slipped into this quarter, and they lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in bonuses because they didn't hit that number for last quarter. If they'd known about it earlier, if they'd known that they weren't where they thought they were with the customers or with the prospects, they, as managers, they could have done more to pull it in, but they didn't. So they lost a big old bonus. What I did was I walked in and I gave them a reason for why their deals are slipping, because they weren't all on the shared understanding of where the buyer is in their particular buyer journey. Point being is that I marched in and I said, I bet you're missing your forecast. And they were, and I know why you're missing your forecast. And that's how I get in the door. So again, it's that insight about their own business that maybe they haven't thought about. So just saying, I know you have this pain isn't enough, because they know they have the pain too. But what is the underlying cause of that pain is something that you should know that they don't know. And that's the thing that your software or your service should be fixing.
All right. So so the way you explained it is different from the way that I initially understood it. Because like you're saying, tell them, something that's horribly wrong. But it's because I get emails all the time from these, I don't know what, some are legit, but they're kind of scammers. They'll email like, your website is broken. You don't have an H1 title tag on 3 pages. Yeah. You don't have alt descriptions on 18 images. So that they're saying, you have stuff that's horribly wrong, or at least minorly wrong. And I'm like, good grief, really? That's how we're going to begin this relationship, right? Like walking up to my wife when I met her at a bar, right? And go, yeah, your perfume's terrible. That's really old. I mean, like, but you're saying that you didn't necessarily pinpoint something in their business. You're using your experience to kind of make that educated guess that they have that struggle. Is that
that's right.
The right understanding?
Yeah. And the nice thing about having a multi-part touch campaign is you can take a couple of different stabs. So if they ignore the one about your first guess, so if it turns out that they got absolutely golden forecasts, then instead go on about, so another thing that I've observed is a lot of teams will say, we hit quota as a team, but thank God we had the top 10% of our reps. They really pulled everybody along. And so what I did was I actually graphed out an average distribution of quotas. And on a typical distribution, when you look at the top reps are hitting 120% of quota, the bottom reps are missing 80% or 20% of quota. I worked out how much money that was, and it was 15% of the total quota was being left on the table by people not following process properly and not hitting quota. So that was an insight, because what I heard a lot was, yeah, some of my team don't hit quota, but it's okay because the top people do. And I was like, but think about what you just said. And I kind of opened their eyes to say it's not okay that the top people are pulling everybody up, because they could quit at any time. And really, those people are supposed to be the cream of your quota, not saving everybody else's bacon. So let's look at that fat tail end where the money is not being earned. How could you lift that? And it's 15% of the total quota is being left on the table by people not hitting quota. Why don't you fix that? And what I have seen is that people haven't looked at that as a chart across all their sales people. They just add all of the quotas up and divide it by the number of salespeople they have. And that's great. As a team, we hit quota. My job is done. My educational insight there was look at the individuals and see how much money you're leaving on the table for everybody who didn't hit quota. And it's a lot of money and makes them act. Sorry, was I missed? You're muted there.
I was muted. When you start talking about margins and opportunity costs, okay, great, they hit quota, but at what price? If you got 80% of your reps not hitting their number, you're still paying for those reps. You're still paying for the leads that they're not closing. So, there's a lot going on there, but we see it all the time. And you see the sales managers, they are focused all their energy on the turkeys, right? Let's pull these bottom guys up. And to a degree, the top guys and gals, they do want to be left alone, but they still should be shown some love. But, it's like, ignore the top performers, spend all this time dragging up these underperformers, and it rarely works anyway. Why?
Well, and that's where having a good sales process kicks in terms of my ultimate recommendations for any team. I've certainly run teams that have no sales process, where we're all right, guys, let's just go out and let's hit this number magically that came down from the management team that we had to hit this number. All right, everyone, do what you can, go. It meant that I had a terrible forecast because I couldn't tell early on where people, if they really were going to land or not, if this was a good opportunity or not, or if the rep had a good feeling about it. The other helpful thing with process is if you have somebody who's not following process, it's real easy to fire them with cause. You can say, hey man, you are not following the process and you're not hitting quota, you're out of here. And if your people are following process and still not hitting quota, then you have a great action item. You can improve your goddamn process because there's something wrong with it.
Right.
So there's this guy, Jacco van der Kooi from Winning by Design. And the thing I really like about him is that he said, if you were in a factory and the wheels kept falling off the car, would you fire the people or would you go fix the factory line? Because it's probably not every single shift is blowing it. It's probably the wheel machine is not aligned right. So Go fix the wheel machine, go fix the process. And when you focus on a process first, then the humans that are doing it become less unpredictable. And if they're following the process, you get a consistent result, and then you can focus on everybody improving the process, and you'll see a consistent lift across the organization.
Yeah. I call it process before login.
Yeah.
Document everything before you go trying to buy some widget, buy some new tool. It's like, what is your current or ideal process, right? A lot of times their current process is just total chaos. Okay. Yep. Let's merge your current with your ideal. And then once that's on paper, then we can figure out the tools that you need or where the problems are. But they're usually just running around crazy.
Well, and that's what a salesperson can do. That's the cool thing about a salesperson. You can walk in. If you say, I've seen this problem before, and this is that paper, this is those steps that can get you there. And sure, buying my stuff is step 1 of 7 or step 2 of 7, but it's not, this is how you fix your problem. And when you present that plan, you show so much more credibility that you've done this before and that you know what you're talking about and that you've seen the success and you're not just making it up as you go along. So
Yeah.
presenting that plan is something real easy that salespeople can do to set up that credibility and get everybody on the path to, first of all, buying your stuff, and then second, implementing it so that it's actually doing what it's supposed to do.
So, I mean, as the co-founder and CEO of your current business, how much are you involved in this versus leaving it up to your executive team? You know, do you tell them, hey, this is my vision, go execute it? Do you let them kind of map, you know, say, hey, here's the goal, go hit it. I'll leave it up to you. Like how hands-on are you, and how hands-on do you recommend, you know, the C-level get involved in the sales process?
Yeah, so we're a pretty small company. We have 14 people right now, so I'm intimately involved. But it is really rewarding as there are parts that I can let go of. I certainly watch them for a while, and that's the other nice thing about process is we can agree on the process, and then I can walk away from it. And then if the process needs to be fixed, then I can do that with the leader rather than getting deep into like the people part. You can stay on the predictable bit, which is, you know, is this the right way to go? It's just not being implemented right, or is it the wrong implementation? And it's easier for me to look at, okay, what was the plan? Are we on plan or not? When there's a plan.
Yeah.
I think the number one thing for that is having, and it's really hard to do, is having dates on milestones. Because like with the marketing program, we have some great marketing aspirations, but without a date on it, before you know it, another month has whipped by and you didn't quite get to it, but you still paid those people. So you want to make sure that there are dates on all of these objectives. And then you can have a real honest conversation once a quarter with both yourself and with that team to say, well, let's look back at last quarter's objectives. How did we do? And if you nailed them, then great. If you didn't, then was it because they failed at the implementation, or it was a terrible idea? And either one of those is fine, because you can fix either one of those things. But if you don't know if it was the plan, it just didn't work, and then you don't know if it was the people or the process.
You know, I've always worked with sales managers and leaders, and I tell them, you know, manage activity, but pay on results. And,
yep.
and you know, I encourage them to have very short time frames for salespeople, right? If, you know, having 2 weeks left in the quarter and having a conversation with your sales rep, hey, you're at 50% of quota with 2 weeks to go. That's a little bit late to be having that conversation, but it seems like it's what most companies do. They trust, I don't know, some big discounting, some big, harried activity. They're going to just pull it in, or they just don't want to have that tough conversation. They don't want to recruit and hire more people. So like how often, how frequent should we be analyzing the salespeople and, you know, to make sure they're staying on course?
Well, so that's why I'm a big fan of the plan, because you can, on an individual deal level, you can look to see, are we where we should be on this individual deal? And say there's 7 milestones that we want to hit for this $100,000 deal, and we are right where we said we would be on milestone 3 and milestone 4 and milestone 5. There's not going to be that surprise at the end of the quarter. Whereas if you don't have a plan and you just have a great big number that's due, then you don't know at what point is it too late to pull all this in. But if you have a plan, even down to the individual opportunity level, then your one-on-ones are so much more productive. You can say, all right, you have 10 deals on the board, and this one is ahead of schedule and this one's behind schedule. Are you going to be able to bring in the one that's behind? Are you going to be able to bring it back up? Do I need to bring in some more resources to help you? Or do we push it into next quarter? But you're doing that, you know, now in week 3 of the quarter instead of week 11 of the quarter.
Yeah. So I understand the stages on the actual opportunities, but that's assuming they have enough deal flow that at least they maybe optimistically can get there, right? How are you tracking even activity, right? To ensure they're uncovering enough opportunities, right? Because You see it all the time. They get a big pipeline and they stop prospecting. And then it's this yo-yo effect.
Well, something that a buddy of mine, and Andrew Marshall here in Portland does. His AEs he's got SDRs and AEs, but the AEs have two different quotas. One is a quota that they brought in themselves, and the other is the things they're closing from the SDRs. And I love that. They can nail their SDR quota all day long and still miss goal because they didn't bring their own deals to the table. And I really like that. I'm a big fan of AEs prospecting for their own as well. One of the things that can really help is if you are better at disqualifying deals earlier, saying, all right, we're not on plan with this one. We should be on milestone 8 or milestone 1. I'm just going to kill it because we're not on track. That immediately frees up untold number of hours to go do some more prospecting and go out and find those good deals instead of wasting your time on the bad deals. Because it's deadly that we keep following all this time on bad deals. And that again is another outcome of not having good plans. Yeah. If you have a good plan, you can tell a lot earlier, this is a bad deal. This is not going to happen. It's very difficult for us to let go of any kind of deal, especially when there's not much pipe. But if you have like an objective rubric to grade an opportunity on and say, boss, I'm dumping this deal because they didn't do any of the things that we expect by this stage. And the boss says, good idea. Thank you so much for dumping that deal and not wasting your time on it. Now go prospect for some new ones. That's such a better outcome than someone kill it. It's going to come in. It's going to come in. It's going to come in. And then 2 weeks before the quarter is like, it's not going to come in.
Yeah, they know deep down. They just don't want to go do the required effort, right, of prospecting. And so, but then I think that goes back to the company. I mean, very few companies really give that type of cadence and structure and process. Like, here's what it takes: X number of calls, X number of emails, X number of handwritten letters, X number of drive-bys. I mean, they don't tell them. They're just like, here's your quota, here's your phone, go get them. It's like, oh,
yeah, if you show the process, if you say, we know that it takes 15 calls to get a meeting because we've been doing it for 2 years. So if you only do 1 call, you're probably not going to get a meeting. If you do another 14 calls, you probably will. And of course, by all means, if there's some superhero out there who does it in 1 call, I'm not going to penalize them for not following the process. I might listen real hard to what that call is and maybe improve my own process for everybody else to see what's that person doing. But I'm not gonna penalize them. But if they're not making quota and they're not following process, it's real easy to move onwards.
Yeah, exactly. So where should we send people? I mean, you're a little bit unique insofar as my guests. I mean, you're not an author. You don't have some big sales program. I mean, what do you want people to do after they listen to this?
Yeah. Well, we have a free, it is a Excel version of a mutual action plan.
Oh, cool.
It's real easy, and you can put your buyer's process into it, and you can lay it out as these are the typical steps that we see over the next 3 months to get you where you need to go. It's free, and just try it. Put yourselves in your customer's shoes. They will thank you for sharing that. I heard a great quote. Tanner McDermott from Workiva said, "No buyer ever argued with clear expectations." So try it. Share it with them. Share a Word doc or a spreadsheet, something to say, this is what's going to happen to us over the next 3 months. And it's not between now and selling your thing. It's between now and them having that day where they go, God damn, I'm glad I bought your thing. It really paid off. Thank you so much, Wes. I couldn't be happier. So mark those are the 2 beginning and endpoints of this journey. Today to, God damn, I'm glad I spent the money. Document that out and share it with your next buyer, and dollars to donuts, they're going to appreciate it and you're going to learn something about it. So we have this free template you can use. It's dealpoint.io/best. And it's just the best practice for mutual action plans, and download it and try it and just share it with a customer. Like, here's the 8 things that we think is going to happen between now and you saying, I'm glad I gave you the money. It's going to build credibility. They're probably going to appreciate you more for being more transparent with them. And if they agree to that plan and then things start going sideways, you have every right to say, hey, I thought we had a plan. because you said you were going to give me the schematics by Thursday, and here we are Monday. You didn't give them to me yet. Our whole deal is going to go to hell, and you're not going to reach your happy spot if you don't give me that info. What do you want to do? That's such a better conversation than I'm just calling to follow up again from my email that was just calling to follow up. Because you have a plan. You have a plan with somebody.
Yep. Amen. That's what they all do. It's crazy. Yeah. Very cool. All right. I am linking to that. I'm checking it out now.
Thanks.
Mutual Action Plan Template and Mutual Action Plan Best Practices.
That's the one. Yeah. And then if that works, come buy my stuff.
Cool.
But try it first. Try it first for free.
Hey.
Using a spreadsheet.
That's a fair deal. All right. I'm going to sign up right after this.
Right on. Okay.
Well, cool. Once you're back to traveling, if you come to SoCal, man, let's do some wine drinking.
Well, we my boys love Legoland, which is right there. So,
man.
Yeah, can't go wrong with the Legoland.
I don't know when that'll be open again, but yeah, I do like that better than Disney. Whoever said Disney's the happiest place on earth, that was a great marketer, because that place is miserable.
Yeah, right on. Okay, well, thank you so much for this time. Yeah, thanks, Wes. It's nice to meet you.
Have a great day. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah.
Good stuff there. I love having founders of companies on the show. We get down to the brass tacks. Let me guess. Is this one of your problems? Find the root cause of their problem. Well, that's a no-brainer, right? But Zig Ziglar always talked about that. You can make as much money as you want in sales if you can just help enough people solve their own problems, right? That's our job. Hurt and rescue. And sometimes we don't even have to hurt. We just have to uncover. Just put ourselves out there. Ask enough questions. See if they are hurting. Offer a solution. So yeah, the exact quote was, you can have anything in life that you want if you help enough other people get what they want. I knew it would come to me. What risks are you worried about? I've read a lot about your company, your situation. Is this your problem? So, I've always said whoever's asking the questions is in control of the conversation. And I still believe that, but I've modified it a bit. There does need to be a conversation, right? The prospect needs to know they're not just being grilled, right? This isn't, not being interrogated, so can you help them through the situation? And so sometimes it requires dialogue, right? Sometimes you give some pointers, give a little insight, let them know that you know what you're talking about. You make an educated guess. Sometimes you're right on the money and you'll seem like a magician. Sometimes even if you're 180 degrees off, you can still kind of play it off, but it's still, at least it's a data point. And you can start honing in on what the real situation is. So don't be afraid to engage like that, okay? I love his question on budget. Do they have the authority? When was the last time you signed a PO of this size? It's a great question. So a lot of good meat in there. But look, it's tough going alone. So, I've talked about this over and over and over again, the 30-day sales growth. I'm combining it into the Make Every Sale program. And I've gone back and forth with naming over the years. Honestly, because, I've been in teams, I've been in mastermind groups, I've worked solo outside of mastermind groups, but actually the naming of the Make Every Sale course came about through the mastermind group I was in. And I do like the name. But should I have a 30-day sales growth? Should I Make Every Sale? Should I combine them? I've always bounced that around back and forth. And hey, you've seen McDonald's try new things, and they take them off the shelf, they put them back on the shelf. But for now, it's still, if you want just the digital assets of my training, the on-demand videos, the workbook, my book, it's all included for one price, okay, over at makeeverysale.com. That redirects. But my ongoing group, it's still called 30-Day Sales Growth. Maybe I'll call it the Make Every Sale Insider, or I did have an inner circle back in the day, but the point is, every single week we're on live. And inside the group, you can ask questions at any time, and rarely does even half a day go by that I don't answer. because the truth is during the day I'm usually at my desk, or have my laptop. In the Make Your First 5K from Home groups, the second time I've run it this year, I've responded by making personal videos, and I put it in the group, but it's personal to the person asking. So it's almost like getting one-on-one coaching at a very affordable price. But I don't know when I'll do that group again. But the members are having some good success. Small group, very intimate. There's no hiding. So I think they'll get some great results because you can't hide. But plug in, okay? If not me, get with someone else. But you can't go this alone. As soon as I finish this recording, I'm heading over to jiu-jitsu. And, 3.5 years now I've done this. 4 to 6 days a week. I mean, beat up, sore, tired. But, man, it's a good group of people. They push me. They push me harder than I would have pushed myself. And so that's what you need at all times, and especially in tough times, at least trying, challenging times. Because even if you've made a lot of money during COVID, and I've done fine through this time, it's still unsettling as there's just so much chaos and animosity going on. It's not normal times. Maybe we'll look back and say it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, but I don't know too many people other than maybe Jeff Bezos where it's the best of times. So make sure you're plugged in and connected with somebody, okay, with a few somebodies. And I've formed some of my best relationships through business. Okay, so it's totally possible, and it should happen. People always say, "Oh, it's just business, nothing personal." It's like bull crap. I take it personally. I'm literally investigating a thing right now. A couple of hours ago, I got in touch with this individual because something was weird last week on a deal, and technically I lost the deal. But now there's some confusion. The owner wasn't even involved. Others were using his name. It's very confusing. But I've got a team I can bounce ideas off of. They're helping me troubleshoot. I'm like, man, am I going crazy? My dad always says if things don't make sense, there's something you don't know. And so things weren't making sense. And initially I was mad. I was spitting mad last week. I'm 50 years old. I've been kicked many a times. Still doesn't feel good. But it felt personal. And so we're digging in. As usual, it looks like there was some miscommunication. But, my whole point in that was that business is personal. And it's okay to do business with the personality, with humanity. I think you should do it that way. So being a little bit vulnerable, I think, is a good thing. Yeah, every now and then you're going to get kicked in the teeth. But the benefit, I think, far outweighs the risk. But it's good. I think it's almost necessary to have a team surrounding you, a group, a community you can go to and work together on things. And tell everybody, hey, I'm having a down moment. Need some advice, need some help. Okay? It's a good thing. It's a recommended thing. And literally all of the super successful people you hear of and read about had some type of peer group, support group, mentorship, something like that they were plugged into. So you're not smart going it alone. You're just making it harder than it should be. Okay? So come hang out and let me help you. 30daysalesgrowth.com. Thanks for listening. I'm going to go sell something.